Your heart pounds as you read that email. The one announcing a major deadline moved up. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus offers a different path. He said, "People are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. Your power lies not in the events themselves, but in your judgments about them." This video will give you a complete framework for shifting your perspective, turning overwhelming stress into a series of manageable tasks. We will explore the specific Stoic principles and daily practices that build this skill. What if the very thing causing your stress holds the key to your calm? By the end, you will know exactly how to find that key. What is one situation you are facing right now that feels completely out of your control? This foundational framework is known as the Dichotomy of Control, the bedrock principle for transforming your experience of stress. The Stoics drew a clear, unbreakable line between two categories. On one side are the things within our complete command, our own judgments, our impulses, what we desire and what we seek to avoid. Everything else, every single thing from our reputation to our well-being to the actions of other people, belongs to the second category, the realm of the uncontrollable. Epictetus begins his entire manual for life, the Enchiridion, with this very distinction. He states that the chief task in life is simply to identify what is ours and what is not. Most of our stress is a direct result of misplacing our energy, fighting against the traffic jam instead of deciding what to listen to on the radio. You are waiting in an unmoving line of cars. The red taillights stretching to the horizon, the delay, the choices of every other driver, these are entirely outside your command. They belong to the external world. What remains firmly in your grasp is your response. You can choose to simmer with frustration, grip the wheel, and resent the delay, a reaction that pours mental fuel on the fire of stress. Or you can accept the situation as it is and decide to use the time, perhaps to listen to an audiobook or simply to observe your own thoughts without judgment. The event is neutral. Your judgment of the event is what charges it with power. Think of one specific stressor in your own life right now. Take a mental pen and draw that Stoic line through it. What elements truly fall within your sphere of influence, your opinions and your efforts, and what elements are simply facts of the external world that you must work with, not against? That initial, raw impression is not the final word. The ancient Stoics identified a powerful inner faculty they called proherses, our capacity for choice. This is your ultimate command center, the part of you that gets to say yes or no to those first, often alarming, thoughts. A stressful event lands not as a fully formed reality, but as an unexamined impression. Your proherses is the gatekeeper that either welcomes that impression as truth or questions its validity. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius captured this beautifully in his private writings, noting that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Your mind takes on the hue of whatever judgments you allow to settle there. Think of receiving thoughtful feedback on a project you poured your heart into. The initial, automatic impression might suggest you are a complete failure. This thought, left unchecked, will color your entire emotional world with shades of anxiety and defeat. But your proherses can intervene. It can step in and reframe that raw data, suggesting a different interpretation. This is not a verdict on my worth. It is specific information I can use to improve. This feedback is an opportunity to grow stronger and more skilled. The external event, the feedback itself, remains the same, but by exercising your faculty of choice over the initial impression, you transform the entire experience from a personal challenge into a manageable task for development. Can you recall a recent moment where an unchecked first impression, perhaps a sudden change of plans or a direct comment from someone, sent you into a spiral of distress. What might have happened if, in that very instant, you had paused to question the color of that initial thought? This pause, that crucial gap between the initial alarm bell and your response, is what the Stoics called the discipline of assent. It is the conscious practice of withholding your agreement from a raw impression until you have examined it. In that small space of silence, your true freedom lies. The Roman philosopher Seneca wrote extensively about this, specifically in the context of difficult emotions. He advised his friend Lucilius to delay his reaction, to grant himself a moment of reflection before a feeling could take root. Do not attempt to dismiss the initial impulse all at once, he suggested, for its first movements are forceful, but its subsequent phases can be guided. The goal is to interrupt the chain of events right at the start, before a single spark becomes something much larger. Think of a text message that lands with a tone you interpret as dismissive or critical. The first impression suggests they are being unkind. The immediate, automatic urge is to fire back a defensive or equally sharp reply. This is the moment of the discipline of assent. Instead of your fingers flying across the screen, you place the phone down, you create that gap, you walk away for 5 minutes or simply take one deep breath. In that pause, you reclaim the power to interpret. You move from being a reactor to being an evaluator. You can ask, is that the only possible meaning of their words? Could there be another explanation, perhaps a rushed moment or a simple misunderstanding? This simple act of pausing stops the snowball effect of stress before it ever gains momentum. It prevents one unexamined thought from coloring your entire hour or even your entire day. Can you identify a recent interaction, perhaps a difficult conversation or a piece of unexpected news, where creating even a 10-second pause could have completely altered the emotional path of what happened next? This practice of pausing and reinterpreting leads us to a far more profound Stoic mindset, one that does not merely accept events but actively embraces them. The Stoics called this concept Amor Fati, a love of one's fate. It is the radical decision to welcome everything that happens, including every setback and every obstacle, as a necessary and beneficial part of your life's journey. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius repeatedly turned to this idea in his private meditations, reminding himself to accept whatever nature brings. He used the simple, powerful analogy of a fig tree. A fig tree's duty is to produce figs. A person's duty, he suggested, is to accept what nature brings, just as naturally and without complaint. Your fate is not a random series of difficulties, but the very material you are meant to work with. Imagine a significant project at work suddenly hits a major roadblock. The initial interpretation might suggest failure and wasted effort. The path of Amor Fati, however, invites a completely different view. This setback was not a derailment of your plan, but a necessary redirection. It forced you to pause, to re-examine your approach, and perhaps to discover a more innovative solution you would have otherwise missed. The obstacle did not block your path, it became the path, shaping you into a more resilient and creative problem solver. What current challenge in your life feels like an unfair barrier? How would your energy toward it shift if you began to see it not as a hardship, but as raw material specifically meant for your growth? This is where we learn to set aside the story and see the event for what it is, a simple and unadorned fact. Our minds are master storytellers, constantly weaving elaborate tales of intention and difficulty onto the blank canvas of a neutral occurrence. The Stoics called this practice of seeing clearly objective representation. It is the act of deliberately describing any situation using only bare and observable facts, carefully peeling away the layers of emotional judgment we instinctively add. Marcus Aurelius dedicated himself to this mental exercise, urging himself in his meditations to look past the surface of your impressions. Look beyond the story you are telling yourself and see the heart of the matter, free from dramatic flourishes. Imagine your manager assigns a project with a very tight timeline. The automatic and unchecked narrative might immediately say, "My manager is trying to overwhelm me. She does not respect my time. This is impossible." That interpretation is a heavy and stressful story you have placed on top of the simple event. Now apply objective representation. Bring the situation down to its fundamental components. The objective facts are these: my manager has communicated a new deadline. The date is Friday. The project requires these specific tasks. That is all. The emotional charge, the sense of personal friction, the feeling of being stretched, none of those are inherent in the facts themselves. They are the surface you have added. By removing that layer, you are not ignoring the challenge, you are clarifying it. You transform a perceived personal difficulty into a simple list of manageable actions. The energy you once spent on frustration and worry is now freed up to focus on planning and execution. What is one current concern occupying your mind? Try stating it to yourself now, not as a dramatic story, but in a few plain and objective sentences. Notice how the weight of it begins to shift when you see only the facts. There is a powerful mental shift available when you consciously step back from the immediate pressure. Picture yourself rising high above the scene of your current worry, ascending until your entire city becomes a map, then a speck, then one of countless specks on a single planet. This is the Stoic exercise known as the view from above, a deliberate practice for shrinking overwhelming anxieties down to their true size. Marcus Aurelius regularly used this perspective to calm his mind, reflecting that from such a height, all the bustling activity of human life seems like nothing more than a swarm of ants. The vast empires and personal dramas that feel so monumental from the ground are revealed as fleeting and small within the grand theater of the cosmos. That presentation you are dreading, the one that has your stomach in knots, becomes a tiny dot in the long narrative of your existence. Its outcome, whether success or setback, will be a single thread in a much larger tapestry. This is not meant to diminish your efforts, but to free you from the weight of them. The practice dissolves the false urgency that stress creates, allowing you to see the event for what it is, one manageable moment among many. The next time a situation threatens to consume you, pause and invite this cosmic perspective in. Watch as the sharp edges of your worry soften, not because the challenge has vanished, but because you have remembered your place in a much bigger, more enduring story. This ancient Stoic exercise is a direct application of our power to interpret events before they even happen. Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of challenges, is not a practice of pessimistic worry, but a strategic rehearsal for resilience. It asks you to deliberately and calmly envision potential setbacks, not to fear them, but to familiarize yourself with their possibility. By walking through a difficult scenario in your mind and accepting its rational outcome, you drain the future event of its power to unsettle you. The philosopher Seneca wrote that the wise person fortifies their mind against the struggles of fortune long before they arrive. He lives each day with the thought that all the gifts of chance are temporary, which is not a fixation on difficulty, but a profound liberation from anxiety. Consider a conversation you are anticipating, perhaps with a colleague or a family member. The unexamined mind might spin in circles, imagining all the ways it could feel challenging. This only fuels your stress. Now apply Premeditatio Malorum. Sit quietly and mentally walk through the scenario. Visualize the other person becoming upset. Hear the specific words they might say. Then, and this is the crucial step, accept that outcome as a possibility. see yourself remaining calm, listening, and responding with composure. You are not predicting difficulty, you are preparing yourself against surprise. When you finally have the conversation, the emotional charge is gone. Because you have already visited that possibility in your mind, you can meet the real moment with clarity and poise, not with a reactive flood of stress. The challenge itself may still be there, but your interpretation of it has been transformed from a threat into a manageable situation you are prepared to handle. What is one future event on your horizon, a meeting, a presentation, or a personal task that you can apply this powerful premeditation to today? A failed business is only a catastrophe if you believe the final balance sheet defines your worth. The Stoics offered a much more resilient definition of success, one that remains unshaken by the shifting winds of external fortune. They declared that the only true good is a virtuous character, the cultivation of wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. Everything else, from wealth and reputation to health and even the success of our ventures, belongs to a separate category. These are not good or bad in themselves, but are merely preferred or dispreferred. They are tools to be used well or poorly by the person wielding them. Epictetus drew this line with absolute clarity, reminding his students that our own actions and judgments are within our power, while our body, our property, and our reputation are not. The quality of your character is your sole responsibility and your only true possession. Consider that business venture that did not succeed. The world may label it a failure, and the financial loss is a real and dispreferred outcome. But from the Stoic perspective, the real measure of the event lies in how you conducted yourself. Did you act with integrity, treating partners and clients with fairness? Did you exercise wisdom in your planning and courage in your execution, even when faced with uncertainty? If you can answer yes, then the venture was not a true failure. It was a field where your virtue was practiced and demonstrated. The external outcome was never truly yours to command, but your honorable effort remains a permanent good. This redefinition of success turns every stressful situation into a test of character, not just a test of luck or skill. How would your relationship with stress transform if you began to measure your success not by the outcome you achieved, but by the person you became in the process? The anxiety around a presentation would soften because your primary goal shifts from receiving universal approval to speaking with honesty and clarity. The fear of a difficult conversation would lessen because your focus moves from controlling the other person's reaction to expressing yourself with justice and compassion. When your inner compass points toward virtue, external storms lose their power to disorient you. You are no longer a leaf tossed by the wind of results, but the tree whose roots are your unwavering character. This is the ultimate shift in interpretation, seeing every moment not as a threat to your comfort, but as an invitation to embody your deepest values. This art of flowing with the present moment has a profound name in Stoic practice, the Art of Acquiescence. It is the active, deliberate choice to stop struggling against the unchangeable facts of your current reality. Acquiescence is not a passive surrender or a sign of weakness. It is a strategic redirection of your finite energy. When you cease fighting what is already true, you reclaim all the power you were wasting on resistance and complaint, freeing it for purposeful action. Marcus Aurelius offered a simple, powerful guide for this when he wrote, "Willingly give yourself up to the fate nature has assigned to you." He is not advising quiet defeat, but an intelligent alignment with the current of life itself, which the Stoics called living in accordance with nature. Consider a day you had looked forward to with plans for a long outdoor hike, only to wake to the steady drumming of rain on your roof. The reality is clear and unchangeable. The hike, as you imagined it, is cancelled. One path is to fight this fact. You can spend the morning complaining about the weather, feeling cheated and frustrated, your mood darkening with the sky. This resistance creates a storm of internal stress over an external event you cannot command. The path of acquiescence is different. You look out the window, acknowledge the rain without judgment, and accept that this is what nature has assigned for today. This simple act of acceptance unlocks a new possibility. With the energy saved from futile resistance, you can now light a candle, pick up that book you have been meaning to read, or call a friend for a long conversation. The day transforms from a disappointment into a different but equally valid form of enjoyment. The event did not change, the rain still falls, but your interpretation of it, your acquiescence to reality, transformed a potential source of stress into a moment of quiet peace. Where in your own life are you currently clenching your fists against a situation, resisting reality instead of finding a way to flow gracefully with its current? Even the most overwhelming wave of stress eventually recedes back into the calm of the sea. Every experience you have, especially the difficult ones, carries with it a simple but profound truth: this too shall pass. The Stoics placed immense value on this awareness of impermanence, seeing it as a direct source of mental freedom. Marcus Aurelius would regularly reflect on the rapid flow of all existence, writing that time is a river of passing events and strong is its current. No feeling, no crisis, no moment of intense pressure is built to last. They are all carried away by that constant forward motion. Think of a time you felt a hot flush of embarrassment or a surge of anger so powerful it felt all-consuming. In that moment, the feeling seemed permanent, as if it would define you forever. Yet when you look back on that same event a week or a month later, its emotional power has often faded to a distant echo. The event itself may not have changed, but your relationship to it has, because time has done what it always does. It has moved on. This realization is a tool you can use right now, in the midst of your present challenge. That project deadline, that difficult conversation, that financial worry, all of it exists within the same temporary stream. Can you recall a past crisis that once felt like the end of the world? A situation that now seems almost insignificant in the grand scheme of your life. That same transformation is available to you in this very moment. By remembering that your current stress is just as fleeting, you drain it of its false sense of permanence, allowing you to meet it not with panic, but with a calm understanding that it too is simply passing through. An obstacle is not a barrier but a training ground. Marcus Aurelius wrote that what stands in the way becomes the way, suggesting the impediment to action advances the action itself. This is the heart of the Stoic Inversion, a deliberate mental pivot that transforms a problem into your personal curriculum for strength. Every challenge you face carries hidden within it the exact virtue you need to practice. A criticism leveled against your work is not an attack to be deflected, but a rare opportunity to practice the virtue of humility. Can you listen without becoming defensive, sifting through the feedback for a single useful grain of truth? An unexpected delay in your schedule is not a frustration to be endured, but a deliberate space to cultivate the virtue of patience. Can you release your grip on your planned timeline and find calm presence in the waiting? This reframing is not a passive trick of the mind. It is an active and empowering choice to see every situation as a workshop for your character. The event itself remains unchanged, but your interpretation of its purpose shifts entirely. It is no longer something happening to you, but something happening for your development. What single obstacle is feeling heaviest in your life right now? How could you invert its meaning, turning it from a source of stress into the very fuel for your next step forward? Your mind can become a fortress, unshaken by the chaos outside its walls. The Stoics envisioned a core of inner strength they called the inner citadel, a sanctuary of reason and character built so solidly that no external event could ever truly breach it. Marcus Aurelius wrote of this directly, reminding himself to retreat into this quiet space within, for nothing is so conducive to peace of mind. This is not about building walls to hide from the world, but about constructing a center of gravity so strong that the storms of circumstance cannot knock you off balance. Imagine a powerful storm lashing against a stone fortress. The wind howls and the rain beats down, but inside, by the hearth, there is warmth and quiet safety. The storm is the stressful event, the cancelled flight, the harsh criticism, the financial worry. It rages with a force you cannot control. The fortress is your trained judgment, your disciplined power of interpretation, the inner citadel you have been strengthening through practice. The storm does its worst, but you, inside, remain steady and calm. This mental stronghold is not a gift you are given. It is a structure you build brick by brick through daily habit. Each time you pause before reacting, you lay a stone. Each time you question a first impression, you reinforce a wall. Each time you practice seeing the objective facts of a situation, you fortify the gate. What are the daily rituals that build your own inner citadel? Perhaps it is a few minutes of morning meditation, creating that initial space of quiet before the day begins. Maybe it is the practice of evening journaling, where you review your responses and reaffirm your commitment to reason. Even the simple habit of taking one deep breath before speaking in a tense moment adds another layer to your defenses. The goal is to make your inner peace so resilient that no matter what happens outside, your capacity for clear thought and purposeful action remains intact, a quiet hearth in the heart of the storm. Anger is a fire we choose to light with our own hands, a primary source of self-inflicted stress that burns far longer than the spark that started it. The Stoic philosopher Seneca dedicated an entire work to this single emotion, calling it a brief madness that offers no useful purpose. He argued that anger is never a rational response, but always the product of a flawed and hasty judgment. The sequence is almost mechanical. An event happens, often something minor, and we instantly interpret it as a personal injustice. That interpretation, that story we tell ourselves, is the fuel. The feeling of anger is the flame that follows. The key to stopping the fire is not to smother the flame, but to question the fuel itself. Consider the common experience of road frustration. Another driver moves into your lane. The raw event is simple: one car changed position. The unchecked judgment, however, immediately rushes in. That person is careless, they did this without regard. This story of intentional disregard ignites the heat in your chest, the tight grip on the steering wheel. But what if your initial judgment was flawed? What if that driver is simply distracted, rushing to a situation you know nothing about, or simply made a clumsy mistake, as all humans do? The event remains identical, one car changing lanes. By challenging the story of a personal offense, you remove the fuel, and the fire of anger has nothing left to burn. Can you recall the last time you felt a surge of real frustration? Look past the heat of the feeling and find the specific judgment hiding beneath it. What was the story you told yourself about the other person's intentions? Was that story entirely accurate, and more importantly, was believing it truly helpful for your own peace of mind? We often hold on most tightly to what we fear losing the most. There is a powerful Stoic exercise designed to gently loosen that fearful grip, not by ignoring our blessings, but by looking directly at their temporary nature. This is the practice of negative visualization, the thoughtful contemplation of life's natural transitions. Its aim is not to cultivate a sense of dread, but to generate a profound and active gratitude for what we have right now. The Roman philosopher Seneca captured the spirit of this practice perfectly when he wrote that we should love all our dear ones, but always with the thought that we have no promise that we may keep them forever. He reminds us that everything we cherish, our health, our relationships, our comforts, are on loan from fortune. They are not permanent possessions. By consciously accepting this reality, we do not become pessimistic. We become more present. Take a moment to bring someone you deeply cherish to mind. Now, imagine your life without their presence, not as a heavy fixation, but as a simple mental exercise. For just a few seconds, allow that possibility to exist in your thoughts. When you return your focus to the present, to the fact that they are here with you now, notice how your appreciation for them sharpens and deepens. The familiar is suddenly fresh and vivid again. You have not invited fear, you have activated gratitude. This practice systematically reduces the stress of potential change because you have already made peace with its possibility. The emotional charge is gone, replaced by a clear-eyed thankfulness for the gift of the present moment. What is one simple thing you take for granted? The roof over your head or the ability to walk in a park? Try this brief exercise with it now and feel the subtle but powerful shift in your relationship to the world. Death is the one guest you are guaranteed to welcome, a truth the Stoics met not with fear but with clear-eyed focus. They practiced Memento Mori, a constant remembrance of our finite time, not as a dark fixation, but as the ultimate tool for prioritizing a life of meaning. Marcus Aurelius directed this thought inward, writing that you could leave life right now, and let that determine what you do and say and think. He urged himself to perform every action, no matter how small, as if it were the very last thing you were doing. This remembrance is a lens that instantly clarifies what is essential and what is merely noise. Consider the simmering residue of a trivial argument with a loved one, the kind that leaves a quiet space in a room. From the perspective of a single, ordinary day, that silence can feel heavy and significant. But now, view it through the lens of Memento Mori. If you were truly aware that your time together was limited, how much weight would that specific disagreement hold? The impulse to hold a grudge, to nurse a small wound, would likely fade, replaced by a far more powerful urge to reconnect, to appreciate the simple miracle of their presence. The fear of public embarrassment operates on the same principle. The thought of stumbling over your words in a meeting can feel paralyzing, a potential concern for your social standing. Yet, held against the vast and final backdrop of a life fully lived, that momentary stumble shrinks into absolute insignificance. It becomes a fleeting ripple, not a wave that can capsize your sense of self. If you knew for certain this was your final week, how would your interpretation of daily pressures shift? The endless inbox would lose its demanding grip. The persistent worry about a future that may never arrive would simply fall away. Your energy would flow, almost by instinct, toward the people and pursuits that give your life its deepest color and texture. Memento Mori is the ultimate practice in reinterpretation, transforming the minor and the stressful into the irrelevant, and illuminating the truly important with a gentle, unwavering light. Your own worries can shrink to their proper size when you focus on the needs of someone else. Stress often swells in the echo chamber of a self-focused mind, amplifying every minor concern until it feels monumental. The Stoics offered a powerful antidote to this inward spiral, a deliberate shift of attention from personal problems to our duties within the larger human community. This is the principle of service, the understanding that we are part of a greater whole. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of his role, writing that what brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee. Your well-being is intrinsically linked to the well-being of the community you belong to. This perspective is rooted in the profound Stoic concept of sympatheia, the belief in the interconnectedness of all people and all things. Just as one limb of the body feels the discomfort of another, your actions and your state of mind ripple outward, affecting the health of your entire social world. Think of a day when your own anxieties feel overwhelming, a tight knot of personal concerns. Now imagine a colleague at work is visibly struggling with a heavy task. The act of pausing your own mental loop to ask if you can help, even in a small way, creates an immediate shift in perspective. Your personal worry does not vanish, but it is suddenly placed alongside a different, more immediate responsibility. The energy you were pouring into your own stress is redirected into a channel of useful action. In helping them carry their load, you often find your own has become lighter. This is not a distraction but a recalibration. You are reminded that your capacity for strength is far greater than your current problem suggests. How can you enact this shift today? Where is one small opportunity to look beyond your own concerns and fulfill a simple duty to another person, whether in your home, your workplace, or your wider community? That single act of outward focus can be the very thing that cuts your stress down to a manageable size. There is a profound strength in choosing discomfort before it chooses you. The ancient Stoics practiced something known as voluntary discomfort, a deliberate and periodic training in minor hardships. This is not about punishing the body or rejecting life's simple pleasures. It is about building resilience, strengthening your capacity to face the inevitable and unavoidable challenges life will bring. The Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus spoke directly to this, arguing that training the body and soul through endurance prepares a person to handle fortune's tougher demands with grace. He saw these small, self-imposed trials as a form of education, teaching the soul not to fear what lies outside its comfort zone. By willingly stepping into a brief experience of cold, you systematically reduce your fear of winter's arrival. The goal is to prove to yourself in a tangible and repeated way that you can handle more than you think. Consider a cold shower. The initial shock is a raw, physical signal of discomfort. Your first instinct is to recoil, to step back into the warmth and safety you know. But when you choose to stay, to breathe through that initial shock, you are doing far more than just getting clean. You are having a conversation with your own fear. You are demonstrating in a small but powerful ritual that this sensation, while unpleasant, is not a threat to your core being. You are building evidence for your future self that you can endure and even find calm within a difficult moment. The same principle applies to skipping a single meal voluntarily, not out of neglect but as a conscious exercise. You feel the pang of hunger and observe the impulse to immediately satisfy it. In that space of observation, you reclaim a piece of your freedom. You learn that the feeling is temporary and manageable, that your peace of mind does not fundamentally depend on the constant absence of that specific sensation. This practice systematically dismantles the power that discomfort holds over your imagination. What one small, voluntary discomfort could you introduce into your life this week? Perhaps it is taking a walk in brisk weather without an overly heavy coat, or choosing to sleep on a firmer surface for a single night. The act itself is less important than the intention behind it, the conscious choice to turn a potential future hardship into a present moment of training. Stress often lingers in the shadows of time, drawing energy from worries about what may come or reflections on what has been. Yet your real strength, the only space where your actions truly matter, is this single passing moment. The Stoics recognized that much of our worry is a kind of mental journey away from the one place we can actually do anything meaningful. Marcus Aurelius gave himself a clear instruction, a reminder to anchor yourself in the now. He urged his mind to pay close attention to what is unfolding right here, to the immediate task before you. This is not about overlooking outcomes, but about gathering your focus back from the vast idea of what could happen and placing it gently on what is real. Consider that large project that seems to hang over you, its size a source of steady pressure. When you think about the entire mountain, your energy spreads thin, your thoughts run through countless possible challenges, and the sense of being overwhelmed builds. But the mountain is an illusion made of many individual steps. Your only real duty is the very next one. The work of this hour is not to finish the project, but to write that one email, to look up a particular detail, to compose the next few sentences. By narrowing your attention to what is immediate and within reach, you turn a vague source of strain into something tangible and manageable. What lies ahead will unfold in its own time when it becomes the present. Right now, in this moment, what is one small, simple task you can finish to ease a current concern? Not the entire situation, just the next sensible step. By taking that one action, you are not only moving forward, you are teaching your mind to dwell where your power truly lies. Your thoughts are not the screen you are watching, but the images projected onto it. This subtle shift in perspective is the core of a powerful Stoic practice known as cognitive distancing. It is the learned skill of becoming the quiet observer in the theater of your own mind, watching the play of your thoughts and judgments from the safety of the back row. You are no longer lost in the drama on the screen, swept away by a powerful scene or an action-packed conflict. Instead, you remain in your seat, aware that you are watching a production, one that you have the power to interpret and even rewrite. This is the discipline of assent made practical, creating a crucial space between a thought's first appearance and your agreement with its story. For the next minute, try this simple exercise. Close your eyes if you wish and just notice the thoughts that arise. A concern about tomorrow may float into view. Instead of chasing it, simply label it. There is a thought about the future. A memory of an earlier moment may appear. Acknowledge it as there is a memory passing through. Do not engage, analyze, or judge. Just watch each mental event come and go like clouds drifting across a vast, silent sky. The moment you find yourself pulled into the story, gently guide your attention back to the simple act of watching. This is not about emptying the mind, but about changing your relationship to its content. That persistent thought loses its power not when you fight it, but when you see it for what it is, a temporary mental formation, not a command you must obey. You pour your entire effort into the game, but the final score is not yours to command. This is the heart of the Stoic Reserve Clause, a practice of profound mental freedom. It asks you to engage fully in your actions while holding the results lightly, adding the silent phrase, fate permitting, to every endeavor. The Stoic teacher Epictetus framed this with the analogy of a game of dice. Your role, he suggested, is to handle the dice skillfully and with care. How they land, however, is a matter for another power. You are responsible for your throw, your strategy, your focused effort, but the final outcome rests with fortune. This is not a recipe for half-hearted attempts, but for wholehearted engagement without the chains of attachment. Imagine you are preparing for a crucial job interview. The path of stress and attachment looks like this. You fixate on the single goal of getting the offer, tying your entire sense of self-worth and future happiness to that one decision, which is not yours to make. The path of the reserve clause is entirely different. You commit to your preparation with diligence, researching the company, refining your answers, and presenting your skills as clearly as you can. You do everything within your sphere of control, and then you release the outcome. You go into the interview room having already accepted that the decision belongs to the hiring manager, a complex web of needs and preferences you cannot possibly fully know. This internal acceptance does not make your effort weak, it makes your presence powerful. Freed from the desperate need to secure a specific result, you can listen more attentively. think more clearly, and present yourself with an authentic calm that is often far more compelling than rehearsed anxiety. The stress of attachment melts away because you have already made peace with both potential paths. What endeavor in your own life is currently causing you tension because you are holding too tightly to one specific outcome? How would your experience of it transform if you began your next action with the quiet understanding, I will do my part and fate will decide the rest? We often rush to label events as simple good fortune or crushing bad luck, but the Stoics saw this as a fundamental error in perception. What we call misfortune is frequently a quiet invitation to develop a part of our character that comfort and ease could never teach. Seneca addresses this directly in his essay on Providence, posing a question that still echoes through the centuries. Why, he asks, do many challenges meet good people? His answer reframes the entire concept of hardship. Fortune, he suggests, is like a dedicated trainer who places her best students in demanding situations. She does not seek to overwhelm them, but to build their inner strength. The most capable person is given the hardest task, not out of disregard, but because their guide knows they can carry it well. The obstacle is not a penalty, it is a test of character. Look at the life of Socrates, who faced his final days under difficult circumstances. From the outside, this seemed a deeply troubling close to his story. Yet in that quiet space, Socrates showed a profound calm, gently exploring lasting ideas with those who cared for him. His situation was not his downfall, it became his most meaningful lesson. It was the setting where his philosophical commitment was shown for all time. He could have shared his insights in easier places, but he demonstrated their unshakable nature within those walls. On a personal level, consider an unexpected career shift. The first impact can feel like a professional setback, an obvious sign of difficult timing. But for many, that turning point becomes the needed step toward a direction they might not have chosen otherwise. The changed path asks them to see an opening they had overlooked, one that leads toward work reflecting their deeper gifts and values. The early view of misfortune was simply too quick, a first feeling that later perspective showed in a different light. Can you recall a moment from your own journey, a plan that shifted or a hope that changed shape, which you first named as just hard luck? Looking back now with more experience, can you notice how that very situation made room for a fresh start, or showed you a steadiness you now depend on? That is the quiet possibility within the so-called setback, the opening to practice a strength that only challenge could bring forward. Your own thoughts become clearer when you see them written down in plain ink. The nightly practice of journaling was for the Stoics a quiet mirror held up to the soul, a disciplined space to examine the interpretations you built throughout your day. This was not a simple diary of events, but a training ground for your power of judgment, a systematic review of where you held your line and where you let an unchecked impression sweep you away. The most famous example of this is the private writings of the Emperor Marcus Aurelius, a collection we now call his Meditations. That entire work was never intended for publication. It was his personal journal, a nightly conversation with himself where he reinforced his principles, questioned his reactions, and realigned his mind with nature. He was practicing what he preached, holding his own thoughts up to the light. You can adopt this same structure without any complexity. Begin by asking, what happened today that stirred a strong feeling? Then move to the core question, how did I interpret that event in the moment? Did I see it as a personal challenge, an obstacle, or a moment of friction? Finally, and this is where the training happens, ask yourself, how could I have interpreted it better through a Stoic lens? Could I have seen that feedback as information instead of a final judgment? Could I have viewed that delay as a gift of time rather than a loss of it? This simple three-step reflection, practiced for even 5 minutes before sleep, does something remarkable. It slowly reveals the recurring patterns in your thinking, the automatic stories you tell yourself that generate so much unnecessary stress. The act of writing forces a clarity that swirling thoughts can never achieve. You begin to see your own mind at work, and in that seeing, you gain the power to guide its interpretations toward greater calm and resilience. That sharp sting of personal offense is a story we tell ourselves, a quick judgment that another person's actions were meant for us. Stress in our relationships often flares from this very source, the belief that a harsh word or a dismissive gesture was driven by ill will directed our way. The Stoics offered a powerful antidote to this particular brand of tension, a practice of deliberate perspective-taking. It asks you to pause your own narrative and genuinely consider the world from the other person's vantage point. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself of our shared nature, writing that we are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids. People exist for one another, and when someone acts in a way that feels difficult, it is often a cry of pain, not a weapon aimed at you. Think of the customer service agent who sounds curt and impatient on the phone. The immediate, unchecked interpretation is that they are being rude to you personally. This story ignites frustration and puts you on the defensive, but now apply the Stoic lens of understanding. Perhaps this person is at the end of a long shift, dealing with one difficult situation after another. Maybe they are grappling with a personal hardship you cannot see, a worry that weighs on their mind and shortens their patience. Their tone has nothing to do with you. It is the overflow of their own internal world. By shifting your interpretation from personal attack to possible personal struggle, you drain the interaction of its sting. The frustration softens, often replaced by a sense of patience or even quiet compassion. The event itself, the short phone call, remains unchanged, but your judgment of it transforms a moment of friction into a manageable and even insignificant part of your day. In a current conflict you are holding on to, what unspoken reason, what hidden burden might the other person be carrying that explains their actions without excusing them? The endless chase for more is an engine that runs on the fuel of your own dissatisfaction. Modern life often equates success with constant acquisition, the next promotion, the newer car, the larger home, leaving you in a perpetual state of wanting. This gap between your desires and your current reality is a primary generator of stress, a space that no external achievement can ever permanently fill. The Stoic answer is not to abandon ambition, but to radically realign your desires, to find profound satisfaction not in what you lack, but in what you already possess. The philosopher Epictetus framed this with piercing clarity, stating that wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. He saw poverty and wealth not as conditions of your bank account, but as states of your mind, matters of your own judgment. Imagine sitting down to a simple, home-cooked meal. One mindset scans the table and sees only what is missing, comparing it unfavorably to a lavish restaurant dinner you cannot afford. This judgment creates a subtle undercurrent of lack and stress. The Stoic shift is to bring your full attention to the meal before you, to appreciate the nourishment it provides, the hands that prepared it, the simple fact of having food at all. The meal itself has not changed, but your interpretation of its value has transformed it from a symbol of what you lack into a source of genuine contentment. This practice systematically closes the stressful gap between desire and reality by bringing them into alignment. Where in your own life does the hunger for more, whether in your career, your possessions, or your social life, create a background feeling of unease? What single area could you choose, starting today, to practice the art of wanting exactly what you already have? Your current struggle is not a random disruption. but one necessary note in a grand, universal symphony. This is the heart of the Stoic concept of logos, the rational and divine intelligence that weaves through all of existence, giving it order and purpose. To see yourself as a conscious part of this larger whole is to find an unshakable anchor for your peace. Marcus Aurelius reflected on this deeply, writing that the universe is a single living being with one substance and one soul. Everything is interconnected, from the stars in the sky to the thoughts in your mind, all operating according to a shared, rational principle. Your stressful moment, when viewed through this lens, is not an isolated event. It is a single thread in an immense and beautiful tapestry. That thread, with its particular color and texture, its knots and its smooth passages, is essential to the overall picture. On its own, it might seem out of place, but when you step back and see how it contributes to the strength and pattern of the whole, its individual difficulty takes on a new meaning. Your challenge, whether a professional shift or a personal transition, is not a break in the fabric of your life. It is the very material that adds depth and contrast to the emerging image. How does this single strand of experience you are holding right now contribute to the larger, still unfolding pattern of who you are becoming? When you align your own small reason with this vast, cosmic reason, you trade the noise of a single moment for the profound calm of knowing you are exactly where you are meant to be. A lightness of being is the secret companion to Stoic strength. While the philosophy is often painted with the brush of solemn duty, its wisest practitioners knew that a sense of humor was essential armor against life's inevitable friction. They understood that refusing to take yourself too seriously is not a lapse in discipline, but a profound application of it. The Stoic teacher Seneca, who wrote extensively on managing difficult emotions, was also known for his sharp wit and playful banter in his letters. He recognized that a well-timed laugh could deflate the hot air of a bloated problem, revealing its true, manageable size. Even Cato the Younger, a model of unwavering principle, was said to employ a dry, cutting humor to disarm his opponents and relieve tense situations. For them, wit was not an escape from reality, but a tool for seeing it more clearly. Think of that moment in a presentation when you fumble a word or click the wrong slide. The initial, gut-clenching interpretation screams failure and embarrassment. You can choose that path, berating yourself internally and amplifying the mistake into a monumental flaw. Or you can exercise your Stoic power of reinterpretation. You can see the event for what it is, a simple human error, and meet it with a gentle, self-deprecating smile. A quiet laugh at your own humanity does not undermine your authority. It confirms your connection to everyone else in the room. The mistake itself is neutral, a slip of the tongue or finger. Your judgment of it as a catastrophe is what creates the stress. By finding the slight absurdity in the situation, you transform a potential source of anxiety into a moment of shared understanding. That minor mishap becomes not a stain on your record, but a brief, relatable story. What small stumble did you experience this week? A spilled coffee or a forgotten name that felt heavy in the moment? Can you look back and find the hidden thread of humor in it now? The gentle reminder that perfection was never the goal, and that sometimes the best way to carry a burden is to laugh at how strangely it is shaped. Your phone buzzes with a text as you finalize the quarterly report due in 2 hours. The message informs you a pipe has burst at home, creating a situation in the kitchen. Moments later, an email arrives from your manager, pointing out significant errors in your initial draft and asking for a complete revision. The deadline remains unchanged. This moment of professional pressure and personal disruption is your final examination in Stoic composure. The first crucial move is not to act but to pause. You place the phone face down, close your eyes, and take one deliberate breath. This is the discipline of assent in action, creating a thoughtful space between the incoming events and your response. In that silence, you invoke the foundational principle, the dichotomy of control. You draw the line. The situation at home, your manager's feedback, and the fixed deadline are all in the category of the uncontrollable. They are facts of the external world. Your own judgments, your effort, and your next action are what remain firmly within your command. With this clarity, you begin the Stoic Inversion, turning each challenge into its purpose. The issue in the kitchen is not a disaster, but a call to practice the virtue of resilience and problem-solving. The critical feedback is not a personal indictment, but a rare opportunity to cultivate humility and improve your work. The tight deadline is not an impossible pressure, but a training ground for focused presence. Your attention narrows to the single, present task. The mountain of the entire situation is an illusion. Your only duty is the very next step. You draft a clear message to a plumber, you open the report document, and you focus solely on correcting the first highlighted error. The rest of the world, with its demands and unexpected events, recedes into the background. You are no longer a person affected by circumstances, but an active participant in your own character's development. How would you walk through this moment using the tools we have explored together? Your power and your peace do not depend on the chaos of the world, but on the quiet sovereignty of your own mind. Throughout this journey, we have returned to one unshakable truth, that our freedom is found not in commanding what happens to us, but in mastering how we choose to see it. This is the heart of the Stoic shift, moving from feeling tossed by circumstance to becoming the author of your response. We have walked through essential tools, from drawing the line of what you can and cannot control to creating that life-giving pause before you react. We have practiced viewing obstacles as training grounds and gently setting aside the dramatic stories we tell ourselves to uncover the manageable facts beneath. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, in the quiet of his own thoughts, offered a final reflection that captures this entire transformation. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. That strength is the ultimate reward for this practice, an inner resilience that no external storm can ever diminish." Your invitation now is to make this understanding a living part of your days. Do not try to change everything at once. Choose just one of these principles to carry with you in the coming week. Perhaps it is the simple act of pausing for one deep breath when a stressful email arrives. Maybe it is the practice of reframing a single daily frustration as an opportunity to practice patience. This is how you build your inner foundation, one conscious choice at a time. Thank you for sharing this time and this exploration. I would be truly grateful to hear which Stoic tool resonated most deeply with you. Please share in the comments below the one principle you will be practicing, and let us continue this conversation together.